And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, have a little dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you are listening anywhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat, and you can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. As we get ready to jump off here today, hope everyone is doing well. I do try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable, so I'll say hello to some of the people that have chosen to chime in and say hi today. See, Helter is here, as well as Donna Beaver, who reminds people thumbs up, like, and share. Please do if you don't mind. Dilo is here. Jane is here. Dragon and Brian. And have you marked yourself safe? Have you marked yourself safe from a Harris-Walz presidency yet? Hashtag mark yourself safe from Harris presidency. Make yourself safe. No felines in the room today. They're all hiding. They're all in hiding. The house guest has left early this morning, and they're settling back in. So no cats in the room currently, although that doesn't mean one won't saunter in sooner or later. Kimberly has joined us. Glad you could make it today. Safe from Harris. And also, I'm on the lookout for a definitive list. I'm on the lookout for a definitive list of celebrities who said that they would be leaving the country. Because it's a long list. It's a long list. Long list. But all I see are articles talking about this one and that one, but no actual list. So I'm on the lookout for it. There's a lot of people on there, including Tom Hanks and who is it? Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner's on that list. It's like, who the hell knows who Rob Reiner is anymore? You might remember him if you're old enough. Meathead from All in the Family, which I thought was hilarious because in real life, he is like the character. If you recall All in the Family, the Michael character was a bleeding heart, loudmouth, troublemaking liberal. And that was to be in sharp contrast to the very conservative attitude of Archie Bunker. But if you watch the show, Michael is always the antagonist. He's the one that jumps everybody off arguing every time. Apparently, that's Rob Reiner in real life. Jane says their daughter in Florida called them and said the same thing. Have you got ESP? If I did, I'd play the lottery. JJ has joined us, as well as Jericho. He said the Obamas left. Did they? Good. Let them be someone else's problem. Jane says Cher, old singer in the 60s, said she was, but not going anywhere. No, she's not going anywhere. Yeah, I remember Cher. Sonny and Cher, they were the Sonny and Cher variety show. And he made her career, and after they divorced, she badmouthed him. Rodney says the celebrities that actually leave the U.S. are likely on one of or both of the pervert lists. Wow. Yeah, that could be. That could be. But I'd like to read that list off if I could find a proper list of all those celebrities that said, I'm going to leave. I'm leaving. If Trump wins, the country's going to go downhill. Oh my God. Anyway, NBC article says Kamala Harris concedes the presidential election to Donald Trump. Here's what we know. Not much. Vice President Harris has called her election opponent, former President Trump, to concede the election and congratulate him on his victory. That must have hurt. Harris was expected to reach out to the president-elect before addressing the nation later on Wednesday afternoon, because after she conceded, she still waited hours to address anybody, which is really kind of awful because Regardless of what you may think about her supporters, okay, I think that they were misguided. But some of them really believed and they put their effort into that. At least say thank you. No, she walked out on him. She left him stranded. She left him stranded, waiting for her to come. She never showed up at her old alma mater. That ought to teach them who she is. So here we go. It says, in the call, she told him she would work with President Biden to ensure a peaceful transfer of power, unlike what we saw in 2020. She also made clear that she hopes he will be a president for all Americans. Who else? And that was actually a pretty snarky comment. I hope he'll be a president for all Americans. But because he's what, going to select a handful of Americans and then screw everybody else over? We've already been through 4 years of that. Thank you. Harris campaign chairman Jen O'Malley Dillon wrote to staff in a letter obtained by NBC. The Trump campaign released a statement about the call. Quote, President Donald J. Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris spoke by phone earlier today where she congratulated him on his historic victory. President Trump acknowledged Vice President Harris on her strength, professionalism, and tenacity throughout the campaign. Well, that was generous. And both leaders agreed on the importance of unifying the country, according to the campaign statement. That's him being polite, because I would hardly say that she has strength, professionalism, or tenacity. I haven't seen that demonstrated. Thoughts on that, anybody? I mean, seriously, thoughts on that? As I catch up a couple of comments here, I see Fluke Man has joined us. JJ thinks that Sharon Stone and Pink have expressed a desire to leave. Yeah, a bunch of singers. Who's that? Billie Eilish. Bye. Go live somewhere else. Monkey's joined us. And Mike says, I'm the only one I know who left the country, not because anyone won, but because I had enough. Okay. Rodney says, Democrats haven't been this mad since the Republicans freed the slaves. Oh, no. Shame on you. Mike says Hillary did the same thing. She was so upset, possibly drunk, that she couldn't go out and address the minions. And Brian says some guy on Facebook friend list said Trump will be 4 more years of hell, and that if he gets elected for a third term, he's done. Really? I guess he doesn't know how president-elects work. Does he think? I know that Roosevelt's the only other president to get elected 3 times. Because, there's still a lot of question about what happened in 2020. So there are people who suggest, yeah, he was technically elected 3 times. But I suppose, well, this is what happens when they don't teach civics in high school anymore. Fluke Man says, why are celebrities so political? Desperate attempts to be on the right side of history, or desperate attempts to regarner interest. Especially, you see a lot of this with these fading out or washed up celebrities that you haven't heard from in years. When's the last time you heard from Stevie Wonder? Both elections. That's when you heard from Stevie Wonder. He says, telling politicians and businesses how to do their jobs. We don't hear politicians and businesses telling actors how to fake shit in front of cameras. Helter says, I can't tell if she was reading off a teleprompter or if those words were from the heart to Trump. There was a teleprompter. I've seen the photographs from that conference, and when you back up, you can see them. They're one on either side. Dragon says she looks like she cried the whole night. And Puck says FDR is why there is a 2-term limit. Correct, because after his presidency, the person who took his place was like, yeah, we can't let that happen again. We can't let it happen again. So, yeah, she finally conceded, but she still hadn't addressed, after she did this, which was around 4 p.m. yesterday, she still didn't address her people. Until what, around 6 or 7? Is that right? But yeah, they're all blubbering. They are all blubbering. Yes, Fluke Man, you can only run for 2 terms since FDR. since FDR. But they're all blubbering and crying about it now. Everybody's sad. Everybody's upset. Fox News article coming here about everyone's favorite politician. I know I say that about so many people. So many people. Nancy Pelosi, everybody. I present to you Nancy Pelosi. Yes, she's still alive. She's still alive. Bride of Frankenstein is still hanging in there. Teary-eyed, Nancy Pelosi arrives to see Kamala Harris concede presidential race at Howard University. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's going to die in office. You just can't get rid of some of these people. They've been running for office since Bedrock was a major city. Appeared somber and teary-eyed. Are you sure she wasn't drunk? While waiting to see defeated candidate Vice President Harris make a concession speech on Wednesday. Arriving at Howard University on Wednesday afternoon, Pelosi was photographed greeting Harris supporters while appearing teary-eyed. In a particularly emotional picture, Pelosi appeared to pout as if just about to weep and had watery eyes. Other pictures show Pelosi smiling at the event and mingling with attendees. Well, you know, she can only cry when she puts the menthol in her eyes. That's a trick, by the way, an acting trick, and a lot of these politicians do it. You put some menthol on your fingertips, you know, like the stuff you rub on your chest when you have a cold, and if you touch your face, it'll make you weep. In a particularly emotional picture, oh, I read that, didn't I? Harris's concession speech comes after a historic neck and neck. I'm tired of that neck and neck stuff. I don't trust it or believe it. I talked about that yesterday extensively, that I think it's a massive coincidence that I go to bed at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mentioned it a couple of times yesterday. And Trump is up by almost 67%. And then in the morning, he wins by 51% of the popular vote. She picked up millions of votes in an hour. 10, 20 million votes or something. It's crazy. Historic neck-and-neck presidential race ending with a Trump victory early Wednesday morning. While the election was expected to be a toss-up, the scope of Trump's victory shocked both sides of the political aisle. Oh, my God. Rodney says a Flintstones reference. Correct. Brian says Billy's another talentless singer who also looks like a dude. And there's Mr. Whitman joining us here today. Mike says Pelosi kept alive by means I don't pretend to understand. I think it's probably aliens. Well, they always joke about lizard people. Whitman thinks Trump's long term will increase odds of nuclear war in Australia and around the East, like Japan. They're talking about nuclear war. They've been talking about nuclear war since the 60s, Whitman. Nobody's ever going to do an all-out nuclear war. I don't believe it, but, you know, it is what it is. All People says it's only 2 terms that the POTUS can run for, or 2 consecutive terms. Or is it 2 consecutive terms the POTUS can run for? I'm not sure. I think it's only 2 terms, period. Flukeman says, can't Nancy get removed? Hope BLM trashes her house like how she allowed BLM to wreck people's lives. And there's Tuck. He has to meet with a code enforcement officer. Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that. But here you go. There's Nancy. Oh, baby. You know what? Oh, my God, if that doesn't look like one of my clients from when I worked at the mental health facility. She used to walk around like that all the time. Her face looked just like that. Oh, my goodness. That's giving me flashbacks. Puck says some people are still asking where Biden's 20 million voters disappeared to, and I have some words about that here in a minute. All People thinks Billie Eilish is a dude. I have no idea. I couldn't name a single song. I don't care. I don't listen to modern music anyways. But that picture, please someone meme this. Someone needs to meme this pouty picture. Look at that. If that's not acting, I don't know what is. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, seriously. And there you go. Mike says, oh my, exactly. Oh my. This is right up there with Bernie Sanders with the mittens. It's Bernie Sanders with mittens worthy meme possibilities right here. That is a very meme worthy photo. I love it. I love it. I want to frame that. That's perfect. Come on, somebody. Somebody's got to meme that. Poor Nancy. She's so sad. Ooh. She looks like somebody laced her whiskey bottle with alum. Make her pucker her face up. There you go. Jericho says that's a Kodak moment. For those of us who are old enough to get that reference. Puck reminds us Pelosi's reelected with 80% of the vote. Well, it's not hard when only like 20 people vote. How do you think AOC keeps getting reelected? The people that come to the polls for that stuff, it's so dismal, it's incredible. Because you tell me AOC does her job. I always wonder about politicians like that, like AOC, for example. When does she do her job? When all I ever see her doing is picking fights with other lawmakers in different states, that whatever she's complaining about has nothing to do with what's going on in her district in New York. When does she do her job? Seriously, Rodney says, I wonder at the Democrat propaganda strategy. They sure convinced a lot of people over here Orange Man is bad. Seems like a waste of media resources. Yeah, and we read that story yesterday also, Rodney. You might recall that the media biased towards propping up Harris is the highest historically ever, which is not allowed on news networks. It's not supposed to be allowed, but she got 78% positive, and Trump only got 15% positive from the media. And they're supposed to remain non-biased and non-partisan. And Cyberjack Sr. has joined us. Kimberly says, my face when the McDonald's ice cream machine isn't working. And what does she even do? I don't know. Collect money behind the scenes. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's a payoff. Here's an envelope. Don't look in it in here where everybody can see. Tuck says, who is she? That is Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi crying. And I want this to be memed. I want this to be memed so bad. That face you make when you get the wrong flavor of ice cream, when it's pickle instead of vanilla. Mike says, to be fair, the job of elected officials in Congress or the National Assembly or Parliament is to trade political power for wealth. JJ says, unfortunately, the SEC pays no regard to insider trading by politicians, which she's been accused of several times, or more specifically, her husband is the one that does all the trading, but he makes trades, and we've read the articles on that as well, that can be directly linked to things that were revealed in congressional settings a day or two before he made the stock trades. They've been called out on that several times, but it's never been followed up. It's never been followed up. Seriously. And since I mentioned him earlier, we may as well show you something from Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders being a hypocrite as usual. Mike says here in France, we're a bit more jaded about the Fifth Republic. We'd love it if they didn't do their jobs. You're looking for another revolution? You line people up at the guillotine? Puck says Article 3 project is on the case. Flee the country while you can, Nancy. And Rodney wants to know if the Democrats will take the House. Their numbers are slowly catching up. I have no idea. No idea. And let me pull this up for you. This will be a Newsweek article. Oh, and Rodney made a donation to the channel for the kitties. Thank you, Rodney. And again, I need all the help I can get with the cats. I still have the GoFundMe going for the spaying and neutering and vaccination services. And I'll go ahead and I'll post that right here really quick while it's still up. But again, thank you very much, Rodney. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate it when someone helps the channel out. Helps, especially if they're helping out the felines. We still have 18. And again, since the service tipped them, cut their ears, I don't know if I'm going to get any adopted because people don't like that. People don't like that. But if I can't adopt them, I guess I'll just keep them back there. And that's fine. That's fine. Newsweek article. Bernie Sanders rips Democrats after Kamala Harris is lost. He says it's no great surprise. Senator Bernie Sanders is another guy who's never worked a day in his life. I can't help but mention it every time. Never worked until he was like 40 years old. First job as the mayor in a sleepy, middle of nowhere town. All he's ever done is politics and activism. This guy is so out of touch, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start. Senator Bernie Sanders, party after Vice President states, securing another term. The president, he's got damn near 300 away. I think it was 295 at the last count, right? As Harris underperformed with voters across the country following the at times tense campaign, Democrats have already begun the autopsy of the election results as Harris supporters express a mix of outrage and despondence. Well, they've been blaming Biden for it too. Snufkin says, "So cool, you take care of cats, I take care of endangered trees." Excellent. Excellent. I love taking care of them. I love them all. And I hate adopting them, but sometimes I have to because it's not sustainable, because it's expensive, even just the food every week. But I enjoy doing it. Prime Mover says, "Monkey got tipped, but you wanted to keep him anyways." Yeah, they tipped him too, and I told them they were going to stay indoors. They don't always listen. Raccoon is here. Glad you could make it. JJ says, since he's out of touch, you could start with the Hall & Oates song. I know it. I know. Puck says, Bernie Sanders, the downtrodden multimillionaire with 3 houses and an Audi R8. I know. And his one claim to fame, that blurry photo of an MLK march where he claims the white guy with the glasses is him. You can't tell who the hell that is. I could say that's me. You don't know who the hell's in that picture. God. But anyways, getting back to this. Sanders, a Vermont independent. That son of a bitch is not independent. That guy is Democrat all the way, and he toes the line. Please don't tell me he's independent. Who caucuses with Democrats, there it is, who won re-election Tuesday night, son of a bitch, issued a scathing statement Wednesday afternoon about the Democrats' performance. Quote, "It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them. First, it was the white working class, and now it is Latino and black workers as well. With the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democratic Party learn any real lessons from this disastrous campaign? Will they understand the pain and political alienation that tens of millions of Americans are experiencing? Do they have any idea as to how we can take on the increasingly powerful oligarchy which has so much economic and political power? Probably not." Bernie, you are part of that oligarchy. You are one of these people with big money interests and well-paid consultants. And you can call yourself independent, but you are tied in so tight with the Democratic Party, you couldn't cut those knots out. What a hypocrite. What a hypocrite. Attacking the Democratic Party for things he's guilty of. Absolutely nuts. And there you go. Exactly. Dragon says Sanders criticizing the Democratic Party's policies while endorsing its candidates. And Mike wants to know, how old is Sanders? How old is Sanders anyways? Let's see. 177. No, I jest. He's not quite that old yet. He's not quite that old yet. You know, he did serve under Caesar. Here you go. I'll show you the page result. 83 years old. 83 years old, born in 1941. JJ says Bernie made his money by running campaign funding through his then girlfriend's media company. And Tuck says hit 300 so we can have This Is Sparta memes. I know. And Nostalgic is here. And of course, the Nostalgic Pod Blast is the programmer from Fistful of Radio, where you can find me Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon, as well as a lot of other interesting content if you ever wanted to check out fistfulofradio.com. He says, where are the 15 million votes for Biden 2020? We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Helter says he compromised his principles for practicality, which comes off as inconsistent with his usual advocacy for revolutionary change. I know. Snufkin says everything they say is projection. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. This guy is just as bad. Just as bad. Everything he accused them of, he's guilty of. And all people wants to talk about Hall and Holtz and Aleister Crowley. I'll leave that up there for you to take a look here really quick. They had a bad falling out lately. Just the last couple of years, they had a really bad falling out. I want to pull this up because I mentioned it. Let me see if I can find the image, and I'll share this image with you because I have talked about this before. And I have, I don't believe for a minute. Let me see if I can get that picture up, and I'll share this image with you. Hold on a second, guys. Here it comes. Maybe. There we go. That's the picture that Bernie Sanders claims is him in the march. I don't know who the hell that is. How do I know that's Bernie Sanders? How the hell do I know? How do I know that? Rodney says Sanders' policy positions would only hurt the working class that he claims to care about. Of course, because he wants to bleed them dry. He's got a very Marxist attitude. Very Marxist attitude. Puck says Sanders is a commie. He can stuff his revolutionary changes. Absolutely. Mike says Hall, I heard, sued Oates to prevent him from singing their songs alone without him. Actually, what it was is Oates tried to sell his share of their catalog without authorization. That's what started the lawsuit. Because both of them have to cooperate or sign off for any portion of it to be sold by one or the other. And so he went and tried to sell the catalog without involving Hall. And of course, it got back to him because when they looked at the legal jargon of what was in their contracts, the attorneys for whatever label was trying to buy the catalog realized, hey, we can't do it without Hall's signature, and contacted him. And he says, what do you mean he's trying to sell it? Jericho says, I'm sure you've heard the quote, accuse the enemy of what you're doing to create confusion. Exactly. And Monkey says, the only Bernie I voted for is Bernie Moreno for Ohio State Senate and kicked out Sharon Brown. And Gary Edwards is here. He says he's late. That's okay, Gary. We're just making fun of Bernie Sanders. Not hard. It's not hard. Allegedly, that's him in the photo. You know, I could dig up photos from like the 70s and 80s and find blurry, vague images like this and say, That was me. Prove it isn't. Prove that's not me. You can't. You can't prove it, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't do that. But again, and I'm not saying that's not Bernie Sanders. I don't know. Maybe it is. But he can't demonstrate that it is him. He can't prove that. Not as far as I know. But they always show that one picture. That's right up there with the McDonald's picture of Kamala Harris. And you all know how that worked out. You all know how that worked out. And Mike says, thanks for clarifying. I love H&O. It's sad they had a falling out. I know that because my wife watches a lot of the behind the music stuff, documentaries. Excuse me, swallowed wrong. But it was already brought up about the 20 million votes. Oh, there you go. Frankie says he time traveled to be in that photo. That's me in the front. But is that still Bernie back there? Did you look back to see if it was Bernie Sanders? Anyways, this is an independent article. Where are the 20 million missing votes? Democrats cling to false hopes of a huge gap between Biden and Harris. So less than 24 hours after Trump was elected the 47th president of the United States, social media users began pushing two conflicting narratives to suggest election fraud. Really, oh, now they want to claim it. One revived false claim by Trump was that the 2020 vote was stolen from him, and the other questioned how Vice President Harris could have received so many fewer votes in 2024 than Joe Biden. Both narratives hinge on a supposed 20 million vote gap between Harris and Biden. Okay? So this is where we get down to. Is this the chart? Yeah, this is the chart. This is what we want to look at. This is the map. Okay? And you see in millions of votes, or is this the Electoral College? All right, and the bottom one is, okay. The bottom one is, the top bar is Electoral College, and the bottom bar is popular vote. And you see the split between where Harris was. Am I reading this correctly? Where Harris was and where Biden was. Is this the right one? Is that the right chart? Let me see. I don't know if that's the right chart. That's not the right one. That's Clinton. Because there is a massive gap. There is a massive gap. But the way that it measures up, or the way that it measures out, by comparison, there is a 20 million, nearly a 20 million gap, okay, that Biden enjoyed. But the number of votes that Harris received is equivalent to the number of votes that Obama received both terms and Clinton received. And I'm looking for the chart. I'm not seeing it because I would like to pull that up for you so I could talk about what and I mean the popular vote, not the Electoral College. So Clinton, Obama, both terms pulled just over 60 million. Harris pulled just over 60 million. Biden pulled 81 million. And now they're like, well, where's the other 20 million votes? Where were the other 20 million votes when Obama was running? Where were those 20 million votes when Hillary ran? Because I think she pulled around 60. The numbers that Harris pulled are equivalent to the numbers that historically have been pulled. What doesn't make sense is the 2020 gap, where those 20 million other votes came from. That's a good question, because, that leans towards legitimacy, that it was faked the first time. Flukeman says, think with the technologies we have today, some people can actually ID him. I know it. Cruising says, I believe it about Bernie only because I dated a woman for a while whose elderly uncle used to talk about working with Sanders before he was famous. The uncle was a civil rights lawyer. Great stories. Okay. Snufkin says, do you see those funny memes where people claim Biden voted for Trump and they play video games together with Obama? It's pretty funny. I know. Out of spite, because they threw him out. They threw him out. Puck says 20 million died from Kung Flu. And JJ says, why can't Nevada and Arizona get their collective shit together and produce a final count? I don't know. And Gary, there you go. 20 million illegal immigrant votes probably went to Trump unexpectedly. Snufkin said Trump got 312 now when it's all counted up. Okay, the last I saw it was 295 for the Electoral College. And Flukeman says Google probably hid the charts. Yeah, because now I can't find it. Now I can't find the damn thing. Puck says, interesting stat. Trump made positive gains compared to 2020 in every state except Utah and Washington. And Frankie says it's a bar graph, shows the average count in mid 60 million, but Biden is the only one with the 80 million votes. Yeah, 81. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. And it's a legitimate question that a lot of people are asking. How is it? Never mind the fact that they don't know where those votes are. Can you demonstrate where they came from the first time, since historically those numbers have never been that high? It's never been that high. And there's no reasonable explanation for it. And yeah, I'm not finding the chart now. I'll have to look for it more in depth, and maybe I can pull it up tomorrow. Kimberly says that's the votes that poured in after 2 a.m. for Biden. And that is where you see the spike. Kimberly says the math ain't mathing. There you go. Semper Fi has joined us. Glad you could make it. Glad you could make it today. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that chart. They probably are making it disappear. They probably are making it disappear. And I hate that. Can't you just be honest? I mean, it'll turn up again sooner or later. Why are you hiding it? Why are you hiding the graphs from us, people? Seriously. What's that all about? Unbelievable. So yeah, I'll have to track it down. That frustrates me, because when I'm talking about that kind of stuff, I do like to try at least to demonstrate it so that people can see that I'm not just making stuff up, not making it up as I go. There's a rhyme and a reason to it. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Where'd those 20 million votes go? They were never there to begin with, very likely. That's my opinion. They were never really there to begin with. I know that's conspiracy theory time, the foil hat time, and the whole concept of the stolen election, which you're not allowed to even talk about because YouTube will get mad at you. You're not allowed to talk about it. Seriously. You're not allowed to deny it. So much for free speech. Puck says Florida should be the standard for the rest of the country as far as elections. Jack says it should be interesting how much Congress actually lets Trump do. And Puck says the steal was real. The steal was real. Yeah, a lot of people believe that. And, I would have to agree, but I have to make it, a point that it's opinion, so that they can't imply that I'm trying to tell anybody what to do. And Semper says, great video on the VA. Yeah, I put up a video on Coffee Talk today talking about the VA and how much money they waste on basic things, and some simple things that could be done just to save a who knows how many millions of dollars from the VA that they waste, as well as the time that they waste, people's time. Because you might remember a week ago, I showed the envelope from FedEx because they overnight delivered information about an upcoming appointment, and it wasn't necessary for them to do it. She got 3 of them last week, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. 3 of these? How much does that cost? I mean, I'm sure they get a discount, because it's like any business. You get a discount for using bulk services from a delivery service like FedEx. Usually an overnight envelope delivered before noon costs about $62. So maybe they pay $50 a piece, but 3 of them for an appointment that's not even that soon, that she already got a letter for, and a robocall, and a text message, and an email. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Tuck says, lurk mode, neighbor conference, take care. Uh-oh, he's got to go. Gary says, what if every AI liberal troll bot on the internet suddenly cast a vote in the wee hours? Could happen. Flukeman says, Musk on X said Arizona has declared Trump making clean sweeps of all swing states. There it is. There it is. And Monkey remembers in Illinois one time back in the 50s or 60s when their voting was messed up, it got total votes of up to 600 million people, which was bigger than Illinois' population at that time. At that time. But we're going to jump into, it's pet peeve time. I hate, and this is from First Post. This is a First Post article. I hate it when we pretend we're making history. It says, who is Sarah McBride, the first openly transmogrified person in the U.S. Congress? Question mark. And there it is. What do you call this person? I don't know. I don't know what the correct terminology is anymore, and I don't care. Sarah McBride etched her name in history as she became the first openly transmogrified individual to win a seat in U.S. Congress. I bet this is a blue state. The Delaware senator, there you go, triumphed over the Republican opponent, John Whalen III, in the state's at-large House district, with around 2/3 of the ballots counted in her favor. I guess it's a her. Delaware Senator Sarah McBride has etched her name in history as the first openly transmogrified individual to win a seat in the House of Representatives. You already said that twice. McBride, a Democrat. Okay, we read this also. Why are you repeating yourself already? Who wrote this? Did AI write this? It does not quote an author that I can find, so I'm guessing AI wrote this for First Post, because it's repeating itself quite a bit. The results are a testament to Delawareans who have demonstrated that they are judging candidates based on ideas and not identities. McBride, who's 34 years old, told People magazine about her historic win. No, that's absolutely a diversity hire thing. They'll probably suffer for it, and they'll never be able to tell the difference, because you can tell them, hey, you screwed up, and they'll never get it. They will never get it. And actually, I saw something on X, and I wanted to quote it. I forget who said it, though, and I'll never find it again. But I remember what was said, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. This is not history to me. This is not history to me. Okay? Listen, there's woods behind me. There's a lot of trees back there. And every once in a while, I go and cut one down. Okay? I cut one down, I chop it up. My wife loves the fireplace in the winter. And I do that for her. I've never chopped down 3 trees in one day. So if I go back there and I cut down 3, I made history because I've never done that before. Does it matter? Making history does not mean it has historic value. And I'm tired of media and politicians pretending like every damn thing is historic value. I'm sick of that. I'm really sick of it. Mike says, is she an Autobot or a Decepticon? She's a Junkticon. Who remembers the Junkticons? JJ says the term moron comes to mind. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. And he says, if Trump doesn't get reelected in 2028, I want you to be president. Oh, that'll never happen. Well, first, I wouldn't want the job. And secondly, they try to kill me worse than they try to get rid of Trump. This is not history, folks. It's not. There's no historic value there. No true historic value, any more than there's any historic value in this. I'm going to pull up another article, and this article is from The Guardian magazine. I think it's The Guardian magazine, right? The magazine, or is The Guardian a newspaper? I don't think it matters anymore because they don't really make newspapers anymore. And magazines are going the way of the dodo. It says U.S. will have 2 black women serving as senators for the first time in history. Oh, thank God. 2 of them? Oh, snap. At least she's wearing an American flag on her shirt. She's got a flag pin. The U.S. will have 2, count them, 2 black women serving as senators for the first time in U.S. history, with the election of Lisa Blunt Rochester from Delaware and Angela also Brooks of Maryland. Blunt Rochester, a congresswoman from Delaware, will be the first woman and black senator to represent the state. Also Brooks, a former county executive and prosecutor who beat out the state's former Republican governor in a tight race, is the first black senator from Maryland. 3 other black women have served in the U.S. Senate, including Carol Moseley Braun, Kamala Harris, and LaFonza Butler. There has never been more than 1 black woman in the Senate at a time. So, Blunt Rochester, who was also the first black person and first woman from Delaware elected to Congress, highlighted those women in a victory speech during a Tuesday evening election party where she was greeted by supporters chanting LBR. Quote, "We are a country that is strengthened over time by the soul and sacrifice of those who serve and by all those who came before us." That sounds very much like she stole that from Maya Angelou. But I don't care. Are you going to do the job? Are you going to do the job, or are you going to do it right? That's all that should matter. I'm sick of everybody pretending they're making history. That's all that matters to me. Do the job, do it correctly, and do it honestly, which we can't hardly get from anybody. And I'm hard-pressed to see it as anything further than a diversity hire, just like the last person we just read about. Just like the last person we just read about. Is it legitimate, or is it that Sarah McBride person from Delaware? Or is it another diversity hire? And if it is, how long before it blows up in anybody's face? And are they going to admit it if it happens? Tiffany Henyard comes to mind. Absolutely a diversity hire. Look what she's done. She's destroyed Dalton. The community is falling apart. It's going to have to declare bankruptcy. It may, if they can't manage themselves, they'll end up getting annexed by a larger city. Flukeman says it would make history if politicians shut their mouths and just do the damn jobs. Puck says Kamala lost because Dominion lost internet connectivity. Is that what it is? Well, you know, the machines can only be programmed to dole out however many votes it's told to give. So if she only earned 40 and it gives her 20, then she only has 60 and she still loses. See? Foil hat. I have to say that's opinion. I have to say that. Dragon says they're just the newest batch of failed diversity hires. Looks like they got the next batch of you-know-what's primed and ready to go. I got to be careful with the wording. I get in enough trouble on ScrewTube. Thank you. Snufkin says he can't because it's his second time as president. Still talking about a third term for Trump. Richard Nixon served multiple terms when he was in the Watchmen. Bob is here. He says The Guardian is a left-wing newspaper here in the UK. Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Snufkin says you can't, still talking about presidency there. And Wandering Rooted Nomad. I wonder if the loss by the Jezebel will urge a civics lesson for the libs. Had they just read a little, they wouldn't be crying over losing women's rights. Oh, wow, Puck, I don't know if I can read that. I'm just tired of everything being declared history all the time. Every damn thing is not history. Everything's not history. And Flukeman says, I never hear Asians complain there hasn't been an Asian president. No, they don't care. Oh, well, they almost got an Asian vice president. That would be Tim. That would be Tampon Tim. I wonder if he speaks Chinese. He spent enough time in China. And again, that was his first job as a teacher in China. So I imagine he must speak the language. He must speak the language. But yeah, we almost ended up with him. It's bad enough that he's a governor. And hopefully not for long. Hopefully not for long. It sounds like he's really run the state into the ground with some of his crazy ideas. But yeah, apparently that's history. We got to stop doing that. That's two things I'm really tired of, is politicians and media claiming everything is history. And the other one, oh, I could go on and on and on and on and on about, is calling musicians artists. Everybody's an artist. Everybody's an artist. Rapper, hip hop. Anyone in the music industry, up to their eyeballs in auto-tune and rapping garbage or singing garbage that doesn't even make sense, that they didn't even write. Artist. No, they're not. They're musical performers. They lack the talent or the skill to be called an artist. And it's a mistake to call them one unless they can demonstrate that they are. But wording is everything. And they have, over the last several years, in the last couple of decades, altered that phrasing to make it seem like anyone who puts a song out there is an artist. No, they're not. No, they are not. No, they are not. Got to stop looking at them that way. And you got to stop looking at any time anybody does anything in politics, it's history. We've got to get away from that. Younger people don't understand. They're already confused enough. All People says the two regions with the two black female senators are heavily black migrant populated. It's likely those senators are of migrant lineage. That's possible. Puck says he'll be the Asian president. Okay. And Brian says piano music is the real musical art. And JJ says, so if I fart into an auto tuner, can I be called an artist? Yes, you can. If it gets hits, on YouTube and goes viral, yes. By modern standards, you are an artiste, as J.J. Evans would say. Artiste. Gary Edwards says, what if everybody suddenly identified as black female Transylvanian? Would the government step in to reestablish reality? They would just create a double standard and say it's okay here but not here. There wouldn't be a reality check. They just make another double standard. That's all. And Puck says, watch last night's Gutfeld episode. It's hilarious. And then Fluke says they probably didn't even write their lyrics. If they did, the lines are repetitive. No, they don't write that stuff anymore. There's actually, to my understanding, a handful of actual writers in the music industry that write for almost everybody. And that's why it all sounds like that. Very few people out there actually doing the writing themselves. And yeah, it's rudimentary at best. It's not poetic writing at all. There's no story. There's no story there, like the stuff that you used to listen to. And that brings you back to the golden age, the great golden age. I really think society peaked on multiple levels in the 80s, right in the mid 80s. And then as time wore on, it slid down. We were still okay for a while in the 90s, but it continued to drop. Music, television, movies, name it, fashion, technology, just going down. I mean, technology's gotten more advanced, but is it appreciated? There's a lot of argument that could be made there. Something my wife and I was talking about looking at the TVs in Walmart a couple weeks back. 85-inch TV, like what, $800-900 now? I remember when a TV weighed 300 pounds, cost like $1,200, and had like a 20-inch screen. You know, it's disposable luxury goods. We are in an era of disposable luxury goods. There's no value in them anymore. Raccoon says they just started watching Good Times again. I forgot Apollo Creed was in one episode. And Puck says Taylor Swift lip syncs. Apparently dancing and singing at the same time is too hard. And you think about how hard performers used to have to work. Watch a video of James Brown. Watch a video of Elvis. Pouring with sweat. Watch a video of Meatloaf. I mention those three in particular because they're actually better live than on record, than studio recordings. They're better live. Seriously. You never understood Elvis? Watch a live performance. If you never got it about James Brown or even Meatloaf, watch a live performance. Watch them pouring with sweat, pouring their guts out for that audience. You don't see that anymore. You don't see that anymore. Jericho says Rihanna, during an interview years ago, expressed how she pours her heart and soul into the song she puts out. And someone said, what did they say? What did they say? You dropped off. Oh, okay. Una, what's my name? Una, what's my name is meaningful and soulful driven. There you go. Gary misses the old MTV. They've tried to bring it back. They can't. They've brought back music television only because MTV's been down for like, what, 20 years or more? And it's all reality show bullshit. But they tried music videos only. No one will watch it now. But the reason for that is because you can pull it up anytime on the internet. So why watch a network dedicated to old music videos when I can go to YouTube and do that all day long? I don't need to buy MTV to do that. So the era of that is really dead. The music industry itself is nearly completely dead at this point because there are no more records. There are no more record albums. Nobody is selling millions of pressings of a vinyl record. Nobody puts out a whole album. They put a song, it goes on YouTube, it gets hits or doesn't, and they don't make nearly the money that professional musicians used to. Kimberly says, absolutely, 80s music was it. Favorite of that era was Prince. He's what you call an artist. As I get ready to start wrapping up here, Kimberly says Queen was amazing live. Jericho says that is lyric from one of her songs where she says it like 16 times. I'm not surprised. I don't know any of Rihanna's music. All I know is that nobody knew who the hell she was until she got beat up. Mike says the reason MTV is basically done is because music videos, while still made, aren't important. They were made to advertise a performer and their work. That's not necessary anymore. And Nostalgic says, good show. Thank you, Nostalgic Pod Blast. As I get ready to wrap up, again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. No felines. Nobody came in the room today. Sorry, folks. Special thanks to Rodney and to Brian, who made a donation to the channel here today. Very much appreciated, as always. Thank you, everyone else who was able to join us today. Hope you got some